Good evening from Charlotte. I'm James Brierton. It is January the 16th, 2018. Welcome to a special edition of the Carolina Weather Group live tonight on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and all of our platforms. We are talking about the snow that is in the forecast for tonight, possibly leaving accumulations in much of North Carolina and some portions of South Carolina as we look ahead into tomorrow. Many school districts have already gone ahead and decided to close. That's the case here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. They will be closed tomorrow for January the 17th. We have some new numbers coming in and some new forecast data that we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be looking at some of those expected cumulations for all parts of North Carolina and South Carolina. We're going to be breaking that down for you in just a few minutes. We also have our eye on the sky cameras throughout the foothills of North Carolina and other portions of the Piedmont, watching for some of those early flakes that could be falling here shortly. We have a number of advisories that are up across the region. We have winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, and we're going to talk about those here in just a moment. To start our conversation and bring in our special guest off the top of our 9 o'clock Eastern hour here, I'm going to go up to our friend Scotty Powell. Scotty?
Yeah, thank you, James, for that. We'll go ahead and tell you this is kind of, we decided to do this last minute, watching the weather models all day today. We knew that there was snow in the forecast, but it seems like it's really ramped up as we went through the day with the different models coming in. A little bit more moisture, and then we decided we were going to do a show. So we do have Trisha Palmer on with us. She is from the National Weather Service in Greenville, South Carolina, and Trish is fierce working at the on the forecast right now. So she's been able to step away for a few minutes and join us. So Trish, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. I know it's a crazy, busy, hectic time right now there in the weather office in Greer, South Carolina.
Yeah, it is, and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to work out to get on the Google Hangouts with you guys, so the phone will have to do for now. But yeah, it is busy. We've been watching this system for the past several days, and it's been ramping up. So we're trying to figure out what we need to do as far as upgrading any advisories to warnings, and we'll be making those decisions in the next hour. Everything will be out hopefully by the 10 o'clock news.
All right, well, we'll probably still be closing up shop there, so we'll be able to give those warnings and advisories out when you make them. But Trish, let's kind of talk about this system. Why this is normally a typical way we see winter weather here in the Carolinas, but why is this one a little bit different? Why do you guys expect to see snow in the Charlotte area as well as western North Carolina?
Well, we've got a really sharp upper trough moving through. It's a high amplitude, but a short wavelength upper trough, and the upper low will be closing off over the southern Appalachians towards the central Appalachians during the day tomorrow. And as it does that, to go into the geek speak, we're going to have a little bit more of a baroclinic leaf forming on the back edge of the precip. So we're going to see it actually, some of the precipitation actually pulling back into the western North Carolina Piedmont during the day tomorrow. So it's going to linger a little bit longer. The other thing we've been looking at is the depth of the moisture through the columns. So going up, leading up to the forecast today, what we've been watching is that the moisture hasn't been as deep in the forecast, but now it's starting to get a little bit deeper. So that's impacting our snow ratios. We just had a report from the Morristown, Tennessee office that they had 1.1 inches of snow at 0Z, which is 7 o'clock Eastern time, but only 0.05 liquid, which is a 22-to-1 snow-liquid ratio. Now, that should modify as it crosses the mountains, but with a 22-to-1 snow-liquid ratio, if you get a tenth of an inch, you're expecting a tenth of an inch of liquid. That would be 2.2 inches of snow. So that's pretty impressive. That's a very dry snow, not very good for snowballs at all. Go on.
No, I was going to say, Trish, I am going to pull up some of the Trough plumes that we've been looking at. So maybe you can kind of talk about that increase of moisture, what you've been talking about. I'm just going to show the visual effects of that while you continue. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. So as you're looking at those SRF plumes there, as you see especially if you're looking at the dprog DT, which is basically the change in what the model is forecasting with time, so the last few model runs. The most recent one on the SRF is 21Z, then before that was the 15Z, and so on and so forth. So you can see how the storm total snow, the QPF, everything has been increasing over the past few model runs. And we really started seeing this trend yesterday, maybe a little bit on Sunday. When we were looking at the extended forecast for tomorrow, we were initially starting to look at a little bit of a it was down. The forecasts were being downplayed a little bit more. It was looking a little bit drier, and then suddenly over the weekend it really started increasing the moisture. So as you can see with those with the increase in QPF comes the increase in snow, and now we're looking at the means for the upstate parts of the foothills towards 3 inches, and then as you go over towards the I-77 corridor, we're looking more at like 4 inches for the means. Now sometimes the SRF QPF isn't always the most reliable. It's not always the best type of QPF to use. But sometimes, especially this time of year with fronts in the southeast, it does a pretty good job capturing more of the light QPF that might be originating in the sloping frontal zone areas. But even still, you know, it's one of those things when we see that, especially now that the NAM and the GFS, everything is really picking up on the increase in QPF. The 0Z NAM is starting to trickle in. That's one of the things that's really causing us concern, and so we're looking at expanding our warnings.
And Trish, one other thing, especially for your folks in the upstate, the foothills, even kind of the Asheville area, some of the models were depicting a dry slot, but like you've talked about, that's really kind of filled in as the day has went on.
Yeah, and that's always the concern, is that we get a little bit of dry slot, and that seems to always happen in the western part of the Piedmont and the foothills, unless we're getting some upslope from a coastal system. But in a system like this, that's not unusual that we get that dry slotting, especially as the winds turn around from the northwest and we get a little bit of downsloping, which will dry the lower levels. I know that's a lot of geek speak I've been talking here, but so that's not totally unusual, and that's usually what we expect. So seeing this, especially the way it's sort of going gangbusters now over portions of the Piedmont, and then picking up into central North Carolina over in Raleigh's area, this is a fascinating event.
It is, and I know we only got you a couple more minutes here because I know you have to get back and finish up the forecast. But let's kind of break it down region by region for your area. Let's first talk about the upstate. What do you expect to see? Then we can transition into the Asheville area, and then maybe the foothills, and then the Charlotte metro area.
Well, our current forecast for the upstate that we have published, as you guys can see, and this is from this afternoon, it's about an inch. But with a new QPF that we're looking at, that's going to be bumped up a little bit. I'm not 100% sure exactly what I'm going to be going with, but it does look like at least portions of the upstate will be enough for a warning. And for the South Carolina upstate, we look for 3 inches of snow to issue a winter storm warning. For the Asheville area, the criteria is 4 inches of snow. And for right now, everything in the mountains looks like it should stay below that level. We could see some 3 inches, maybe a little bit more than 3 inches. But right now, it looks like it wouldn't quite reach warning criteria. For the North Carolina Piedmont, we also have a criteria of 3 inches. So, and we already do have the warning out for, in our area, Union County, North Carolina, but all of Raleigh's area has a warning, and that'll be probably expanded west. Again, I'm not exactly sure how far west, but at least a little bit. And then for our Georgia counties, it's 2 inches of snow. And for right now, I don't have 2 inches of snow there. So it sort of depends on the collaboration that I'm going to be doing going forward with Peachtree City, with Columbia, with Raleigh, with Roanoke, to see exactly where we want to issue these products.
And so, Tricia, you're talking about collaborating with the other weather offices. You have the Peachtree City office, the Raleigh office, and the Blacksburg office. How does that go about? Bring us a little bit inside of what the weather office or what the weather service is doing tonight behind the scenes, collaborating and getting all these watches and warnings and advisories to kind of match up with each other.
Sure. We have, with our system, AWIPS, which is the Advanced Weather Interactive Processing System, we can see our neighbors' grids. So we just turn on a little button and we can see everything that they've got going on. And then we have an internal chat software. So with the little button that we can see their grids, we can see when they were last saved and how recently they've been updated. So like I might see somebody's grids that are 6 hours old, but then I might see somebody else's grids who are 30 minutes old. And so I know that the 30-minute old grids, they've been looked at, they've been adjusted based on the latest guidance. And like I said, we try to, especially when we're talking about metro areas like Charlotte, portions of Raleigh's area, portions of Columbia's area, and portions of our area cover the Charlotte metro. So we really do try to stay in as much collaboration as possible. It can be difficult because actually Lancaster County is in Columbia's area, And that criteria there is 2 inches for a warning. But Mecklenburg County, York County, South Carolina, Union North, it's 3 inches. So there's a little bit of wiggle room there, and I know it gets confusing for folks in the area, but that's it's just sort of we try to line up as much as possible, but it doesn't always work out perfectly.
All right, last thing, and we'll let you get back to working. A lot of our followers follow you guys on Twitter and Facebook. How can they submit snowfall reports and pictures and information to you guys at the Weather Service?
At NWSGSP, that's the best way to do it. They can also get onto our Facebook page and message us or post a reply with a picture. NWS, National Weather Service, Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. You can also go onto MPing, and I don't have the website right in front of me, but we did tweet it out earlier tonight. So MPing is a great way to not necessarily provide measurements, but just your precipitation type, and that lets us know, how far east the snow is getting and things like that. But Twitter is probably the best.
All right, last one, wrapping up here for our followers who are just coming in. I'm seeing a lot of questions and stuff. They're wanting to know about the Asheville area, the Hickory area, and the Charlotte area. So in Western North Carolina, could you give us those forecasts right now, what you guys have for the Asheville, Hickory, and Charlotte area?
For Asheville, like I said, my forecast hasn't been published yet, so I'm not 100% sure that this is what it's going to be. But it looks like it's going to range somewhere between 2 and 3 inches total. Very similar for Hickory. Charlotte's a little bit more up in the air. There's some guidance that's pushing us towards 5 and 6 inches, and our current forecast is a little bit lower than that, more like 2 inches. So somewhere between those numbers, probably. I know that's not very much help, and it's not as specific as you'd probably like, but I would rather make sure our neighbors are happy with everything first.
That's okay. We appreciate your time, Trish. Thank you for joining us, and we'll make sure to tweet out and put the MPing stuff up on our website and our social media accounts, and we'll share the pictures and stuff with you guys. Good luck tonight. I know that you are feverishly working around, so we wish you the best of luck, and I know you're about ready for this event to end.
Yeah, we are.
All right, Trish. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks. You guys too.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Scotty, thank you for walking us through that interview. My camera's a little fuzzy, so I'm not going to come out to it just yet, but I'll invite our panelists to hop on over to our Google Hangout as we continue our discussion tonight. We do have Shay Gibson, who is on the line from Charleston, South Carolina, and we also know many of you are watching from regions outside of the Greenville-Spartan area, outside of Trish's area that she was just talking about. So we'll be talking about Raleigh and some of those other areas in a moment. But first, let's say good evening to Shay Gibson. Shay, what are you watching in the forecast there closer to the coast? Are you guys in for an event like you had a couple weeks ago?
Absolutely not. We're not looking for that. Make sure I'm doing a microphone check here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just fine. Thank you, Shay.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, it's just changed over from the Uber conference call that we just had, and making sure our audio was working okay. So yeah, this is not going to be anything like what we saw a couple of weeks back on January the 3rd for the coastal area. If we see anything at all, it'll be very few flurries. Nothing is expected to accumulate. And nothing's actually expected to stick on the ground because it's just been the high temperatures have been warm lately. We had a rather warm day in the upper 50s today. So, when you get ground warmth, a little bit of freezing temperatures at nighttime, it's not quite enough to help make it stick. It might make for a good show. I'm thinking sometime maybe late afternoon into the evening, we might see a few flurries. And just like what Trish was talking about, the backside leaf of the storm that comes down and sort of wraps around, sometimes we get that northwesterly push down slope and we see a few flurries go through the area, just enough for folks to mention and to enjoy for a few minutes. But I think if anything's going to get a dusting, it's going to be inland from here. It's going to be west and north, and we're talking several counties back. Let me do a quick screen share. And
while you set that up, I can also let folks know who are watching us tonight live, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, that we do have all of the warnings, all the advisories at this hour scrolling on the left side of your screen. Shay, I see you have your radar up, so I'll come to you.
Yes. I have radar up. Do you see the screen that I have right here?
I hope so. We're looking at the southeast. I see some temperatures. I see some, what I presume
radar.
is snow
Okay.
on the radar.
Gotcha. So, so the radar, it shows the cold front that's coming. Dropping into the southeast region. And we do expect this to continue going through the night. And some of these areas in western North Carolina are going to start to see some snow sometime tonight, overnight hours. If we go to the GFS model, let me pull this over here. and briefly talk about that. This is also the other thing that Trish mentioned. This is the sharp upper trough that we're talking about that's in place right now. Let me go back to 0, and we can see the tilt in this trough, and as it moves down to the southeast, it really tightens up, so it gets very sharp by the time it reaches here tomorrow afternoon and pinches off into a closed low. One thing that I'm looking at is, let me go over to the modeling for this. So here is, see if I can figure this out. Sorry, James, I had this up on a whole other monitor.
That's
but I'm
okay,
go
Shay, and I've got a couple other things I can go to if you need me to. But it looks like you've got tropical tidbits up here. From
yes, I do have tropical tidbits. Or yes, that's exactly right, our friend Levi Cowan. This is the NAM 3 kilometer. Now the HER 3 kilometer does not go that far out. There is an experimental one that I could run here before the end of the hour, but this is the midnight run. Let me back up to the 6Z because that one will bring us out a little bit further in time. This one's been pretty consistent, showing that this front sort of picks up, gains a little bit of moisture over North Carolina. And you can see how by tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at cold rain moving through the Charleston area, through the coastline, and you see the snow is really back inland. And so as it approaches the coastline, it really sort of starts to break apart to the south. You get a little less moisture pumping in from the Gulf of Mexico up into the system as that low closes off. It sort of pinches that moisture out. So then we just see a cold rain through the day. But we see this backside leaflet sort of drop down through the area. And that's that wraparound effect from the low pressure. And you see low pressure developing off the coastline as well. That's where you have the mid-level transfer out to the ocean. And then as we go up the North Carolina coast, we see a warm nose effect sort of bring in maybe a mix of freezing rain and sleet there for a little while before changing all over to snow as this high pressure really moves in from the west and drives that cold air down into it. So that should be your frozen column. That's the driving mechanism, keeping the snow, mostly snow from the system, pushed across the Carolinas. We're going to have a pretty chilly air mass pushing in behind this cold front, and that's what's going to keep that going on. But I think when you get to about Charleston and south along the coastline, that's where things are going to be kind of warm. We're not even expecting to get into the freezing temperatures tomorrow until maybe late afternoon, evening, where we drop into the upper or mid 20s. But you know, we're looking at upper 30s to low 40s for highs tomorrow, and maybe even mid 40s if we get some sunshine before any of this even happens. So there again, we already have a little bit of warmth here at the surface. We'll have to wait and see what clouding does. We may see some of that, some cooler temperatures as a result of that. But you know, really close at the coast is what I'm saying. We may see a quick, you know, a few flurries, maybe a period of flurries that's pretty interesting for a little while, but then it won't stick and will not accumulate. If we look at the Weather Service Charleston, go ahead and pull this up over here. Probabilistic snowfall. Well, that's for 8 inches, so we're not expecting that at all. But let me go over here.
I hope not.
No. Here's a percent chance for a tenth of an inch snow or more. And basically, you see the dusting here inland. In Somerville, Moncks Corner area, Walterboro, Allendale, you have 35% chance. I mean, pretty decent chance to see a dusting in these areas. And that's pretty much what we're looking at for the Charleston WFO. As far as Wilmington goes, some parts of the northern areas are starting to come into a winter weather.
I've got some
advisory.
graphics we can show up on those too. And as Shay as Tricia mentioned off the top of our show, Shay, you know, certainly we want to remind our viewers that a lot of the National Weather Service offices right now are putting together an updated forecast. So we are going to show you here momentarily what the latest advisories and what the latest warnings are. And then by the time we go off here at about the 10 o'clock hour, it's possible that will update again. To Shay's point and to the point of what's over my shoulder here, all of this is evolving hour by hour as we're getting some additional model runs in. We kind of knew that there was some snow in the forecast, but it was kind of on the iffy side. And then as the forecast models began to come together this afternoon, you know, things really began to look like we could be seeing accumulating snow in some significant populated parts of the Carolinas. Shay, at what point today did things kind of click in your head like, oh, we actually have a decent snow event coming together here?
Well, I think as soon as I saw this, what we call a 500 millibar Vort max.
That's a big word.
Basically that sharp upper trough that I showed you on screen a little bit ago. Once we saw that how deep down into the south that was going to push, then we saw that the moisture, moisture profile was going to grow for that. And I think parts of central North Carolina, maybe even over to eastern North Carolina, but mainly central North Carolina up into Virginia, are going to see a bulk of this activity, and that's just wrapped right around that vorticity maximum that sharp upper trough right there. So I think once we got a better idea of how that was going to evolve, we saw that this might be a little bit have much more potential than just your typical cold front with a little bit of a dusting on the backside. So the numbers are going up, and it's always good to be cautious going into something like this until you're absolutely sure and you see the overall pattern develop. Back to you, James.
Yeah, thanks, Shay, 921. Don't forget, if you're watching us live, comment where you're watching from so that we can try to give you an idea of what the forecast may be in your part of the region, because here in just a moment, we're going to take you region by region within North Carolina and South Carolina to show you what we're anticipating. And then after that, I'm going to ask our friend Scotty Powell to walk us through some of the model runs that him and Trish were discussing with some of the latest data, because there are some key parts to this that could really swing things one way or the other. Do we see snow? Do we not see snow? How much snow do we see? Is it 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch? And one of those key factors is actually up on the screen here behind me. You can see this is a idea, one of the model projections of what radar may look like as we head into tomorrow. Blue is, of course, snow, and then green is your traditional rain. Shay mentioned those temperatures. He mentioned that warm air kind of coming back around. You'll notice that in parts of Columbia, upstate South Carolina, back into the Charlotte area, things are going to start out as rain because temperatures are going to be warm. When does that switch over happen is a key part, because accumulations, the more precipitation you get, the more snow you're going to get, right? So if a lot of this is rain, that's going to bring the accumulations on down. We'll walk through some of that in just a moment with Scotty and what some of the latest data we're getting in here. And don't forget to comment with where you're watching from so we can try to steer some of these conversations in your neck of the woods. But we do have some of the forecast graphics in from the National Weather Service, and I'm going to pop these up onto the screen. You can take a look at some of the visuals here. This is Trisha's office from Greenville, Spartanburg. They control all of western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, even a few counties in Georgia you heard us talking about there. And you can see that their official forecast as of earlier this evening calls for 2, maybe 3 inches of snow in the Charlotte area, kind of one of the larger metropolitan areas in this graphic. And Trisha kind of hinted that as her official forecast comes out here in a few minutes, that could be changing. So will be interesting to see what comes up next. We have a couple other areas on the map here. As we look up towards the foothills, we can see Scotty Powell. You're on the map there, Morganton, about 1.5 inches. You thinking you might get a little bit more, Scotty?
Yeah, I hadn't seen these updated. I've just been watching a lot of stuff, but I haven't seen these updated forecasts still. So 1.5 inches, we was up a 1/2 inch earlier today. So that's a whole inch that we've gained here. But I've been looking at the HRR and the latest NAM run coming in, both painting a little bit more snowier picture. We'll go over that data and those models here in just a little bit after we kind of wrap up throughout the area. But, 1.5 inches is possible, but maybe 2, maybe 3 inches here in the foothills between Morganton and Lenoir, Hickory, Taylorsville, Statesville, Lincolnton, places like that. We could see 2-3 inches, and somebody maybe towards the Charlotte area could see 4 inches. So this is definitely ramped up and continues to ramp up as the model data comes in. It's crazy. Shay, James, I'll talk to you, James. I know you're a northerner, so you're used to this snow, but it kind of gets you excited as you see this data continue to come in and the levels get higher and higher, and you're just like, man, we wasn't expecting this 24 hours ago.
We weren't.
That's the wonderful thing about weather is, it's always keeping you on your toes, and it's something you have to continuously watch. So, but to answer your question, here in the foothills in the Western Piedmont, 2-3 inches, maybe even 4 is not out of the question.
I mean, I will admit that just 6-7 hours ago, I was giving Shay Gibson a hard time about this. Shay, it's not going to snow. Everyone calm down. Everything's going to be okay. Now, mind you, everything is going to be okay, and we can all calm down. But we are looking at, especially like you mentioned, Scotty, for Carolina standards, a significant snowstorm. And before we sign off, I want to deep dive a little bit further with you guys on what Trisha was mentioning about the different parameters for winter storm warning. So we've got them scrolling over here. I know my lefts from rights. Right there. Winter storm warnings are scrolling on your screen. But Trisha mentioned that not every county, not every region, not every state operates by the same definition of winter storm warning. So we will define those for you coming up again. But here's the takeaway, folks. Here's the takeaway. Advisory, warning, advisory, warning. So warning a little bit more serious than an advisory. Probably means you're going to get a little bit more snow. But just because one county over has one thing, then the county next to you doesn't mean we're quite equal, because the definitions change a little bit, especially in the Charlotte area. Things get really complicated. So we just all need to stay abreast of the forecast, be prepared. Don't worry about vocabulary. No one is going to be quizzing you on vocabulary, but let's talk about those snowfall totals, because I've been teasing them and kind of holding them from you, and that was not my intention. So here it is again, National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg. We were just talking about some of these. So if you're in upstate, you're in Greenville, you're in Spartanburg. You are even in places like Asheville, as far north as Statesville. That map is for you. If you live further north, closer to the Virginia border, then we need to go to the National Weather Service office in Blacksburg, Virginia. We didn't make the boundaries. We're just following the rules. You can see there at the bottom of that graphic the northern edges of North Carolina. You could even start to see a little bit of Virginia if you're watching us from out of state. Notice as we push these graphics further to the east, further into central North Carolina, we've kind of got this band, this darker blue, this area of more snow expected across Raleigh, maybe down towards Fayetteville and Fort Bragg, where we could see 3 to 4, possibly 5 to 6 inches of locally heavy snow in that neck of the woods. That's where we're anticipating one of those bands to set up, and we're going to get a significant amount of snowstorm. Elsewhere on Facebook this evening, we saw a question from someone who was asking, what does it mean when my local meteorologist says 3 to 4 inches of snow, locally 5 to 6? Locally just means that local spots within that zone could see higher amounts, because with a snowstorm you get these intense areas of banding of snow, so you know it could be from one block to the next. Maybe most of your town gets 3 to 4 inches, but maybe your street just happened to get a little bit heavier of accumulation, a little bit more intense of that winter weather above you, and so you actually saw 5 or 6. So you know, just because we can draw pretty maps doesn't mean that Mother Nature is going to follow those pretty maps. Let's head out towards the Outer Banks, where we could see an inch or so of snow, especially the further north you are and the further inland you are. I know one of the things, Shay Gibson, you watch very carefully anytime we get near this water are those winds and those temperatures, and how that may influence the precipitation type, whether we're talking rain, snow, or something in between. You think that's a factor here for the Outer Banks and the coastal North Carolina region?
Absolutely. If you get low pressure developing off the coastline, if you get that mid-level transfer out over the ocean, you have the warm Gulf Stream waters that are just offshore. And those waters right now are sitting right about 74 to 76 degrees. So when you add that surface flow into the system, into the coastline, we call that a warm nose. And what that does is you get wraparound flow off the low offshore. That is counterclockwise flow. And as that moves into the coastline, you get warm nosing feature, which the snow falls from the sky and then melts through a warm layer, and then at the surface, if it's cold enough, it refreezes again as sleet, or it just falls as freezing rain if the temperatures fall below freezing at that time. So we'll be watching for that. But like I said, I think as time goes on, that warm nose will be nudged offshore, and we'll get mostly snow there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those numbers come up just a smidgen, maybe by another inch or so, because I think that there's going to be a little bit more Atlantic moisture added to this system as time goes on. But I think that's a good call for right now on those numbers. And I mean, that's, you know, the Weather Service is on it. They are watching everything very closely. In fact, they're probably 2 steps ahead of me as far as what I'm talking about. But we did have a question from Amy Ron,
sure, and
on our Facebook commentary, and she wanted to ask about Charlotte. Now, I know that we've shown some of the maps from the National Weather Service, Green GSP for the Charlotte area, but I want to quickly show Brad Panovich, because he's kind of our go-to for the Charlotte area. Yeah. So yeah, Brad, you know, he's a great one to follow in Charlotte, and he shoots it straight. He's not going to blow anything up. He's going to follow the Weather Service. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks, and I mean that's a pretty fair map. This was 3 hours ago, so he may be updating this here in the next hour or so, as far as I know. But that's the latest from Brad Panovich from the local Mets meteorologist there, and hopefully that'll help a little bit with some of the questions for the Charlotte area.
A little side note, Mr. Panovich is in Breckenridge, Colorado right now, skiing it up, missing all this craziness fun. So we always kid Panovich when there's a big event comes around in January. He's always at this conference in Colorado. So that's where he's at tonight.
Shay,
he was generating that map. He must have generated that from
he's still working out. No, he's still working while he's out there. He was doing some live hits on TV earlier today. He's still generating forecasts and maps, but he's actually at a weather conference and skiing at Breckenridge in and out. So, yeah, he's a busy man tonight.
He'll post a new map from the chairlift as he's going.
That's exactly right.
That's Brad for you.
Shay, do you still have that map? Are you able to put that back up for me, Brad's graphic?
I sure can. And
because I'm going to superimpose myself over it because I want to really drive this point home. Okay, this is the point I want to drive home, and this is what we've been talking about, and this is what happens every time we have a winter weather event. Is everyone wants to know exactly where this is going to set up, and trust me, we want to know too. But notice this. You see this area right here? Look how close this comes to 45. To Mecklenburg County, to Charlotte. It's not going to take much for this band right here to maybe go this way a little, or maybe go this way a little. It's just, honestly, to be completely frank with you, within the margin of error. This is kind of the best idea where we think it's going to be, based on science, based on human forecasting, based on computers. We think it's going to be, and this is that kind of heavier band we talked about up through the Raleigh area with 2 to 4 inches, maybe locally 5 inches or so. But I really want to drive home the point that it is really close to this 45 loop on this graphic, and I'm sure Brad was aware of that when he was making this map, and this is his best judgment, and I trust this man. But I think he would note, and gentlemen, correct me if I'm wrong, but if he was here tonight, he would still warn us that within the margin of error, this could shift a little.
Exactly right. Yeah, it could. And talking about that, James, let's go into the newest NAM model. This just coming out. We finally got into that past 30 hours so we can see the whole event. So here's the current thinking right now. Here's our line of snow, and I'm going to advance this forward. And this is right around midnight. As you can see, we may see some sprinkles develop out ahead of it, ahead of the main band of snow over the Charlotte area, Raleigh area, even down in the Greenville, South Carolina area. But our band of snow is starting to move into the North Carolina mountains. As we advance this to 2 a.m., we're starting to see that uptick in precipitation really begin to fall in the Asheville area up towards Morganton, Hickory, over towards Lenore. We got some showers still breaking out in the Charlotte area. Let's go to about 4 a.m., and now you can see that snow is really starting to blossom Charlotte west. And so this is some heavy snow. Let's go to 7 a.m. Again, heavy snow now encompassing a lot of the upstate of South Carolina, as well as western and central North Carolina. As we go into the 9 a.m. time frame, again, that snow. And I want you guys to listen to this. Earlier today, by 9 a.m., this stuff was pushing out. This storm system has really slowed down, and it's really given us more, a lot more time with snow falling. So that's why we're starting to see an uptick in some accumulations. This is lunchtime. Again, that back edge of the snow now moving out of the mountains into the foothills. So it's still snowing in places like Morganton, Shelby, Hickory, Statesville, Charlotte, over towards Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Raleigh, down into Lumberton, Rockingham, down into Columbia, South Carolina, Rock Hill, South Carolina. So this snow continues. This is 3 o'clock. As you can see, the snow starting to finally push away out of western North Carolina. Again, some leftover snow showers even at 3 o'clock in the foothills in the Charlotte metro area. So this system really slowing down, really snowing hard now along Interstate 95. And as we go to 6 o'clock, system's really starting to die down over central North Carolina. Still some heavier snow moving into the coastal areas and down here, even where Shay's at, talking about those wraparound snow flurries. The NAM picking that up as well down in the Charleston area, over towards Columbia and even Myrtle Beach. And then as we go 8 o'clock, still snowing in eastern North Carolina. And then as we go to around midnight, it's finally exiting off of the Outer Banks. So that's the latest look at the NAM. Again, I'm going to share these with a grain of salt because you can't take verbatim what the snowfall accumulation is going to be. But again, this is just what the models are showing. A good swath of 6 to 8 inches across the Raleigh area, 4 to 6 inches between Charlotte and Greensboro, and then in western North Carolina, anywhere between 1 and 4 inches of snow. So again, even look at this down here in the Columbia area, 1 inch, 3 inches over in the Greenville, South Carolina area, and then another uptick in snow towards the Jacksonville, Greenville area in eastern North Carolina. Again, don't take these models as verbatim. This is just with a grain of salt. This is what the models are depicting. I think this is a 10-to-1 ratio, Shay. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think it's 10-to-1. We could see 15, 20-to-1 snowfall ratio. So that means a more lighter powder snow, and we could see that accumulate even more than what the 10-to-1 average standard is.
No, that's right. I think Trish mentioned something about 20 or 22-to-1 earlier too, for parts of Western North Carolina. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see where that freezing column, how far that pushes in, and where we get that drier snow that moves in. And that's, you hit the nail on the head with the models consistently slowing the system down. So that could bring totals up. And that's significant, because originally we were calling, even for down in the Charleston area, a few flurries inland was supposed to be for tomorrow morning. Now it looks like that could be backed up into tomorrow evening and in nighttime. So we're talking about a 12-hour difference from what we were looking at yesterday morning.
And Shay, I didn't even mention the temperatures. The temperatures are going to really bottom out as this front moves through. So it could be 28, 29 degrees at 12 o'clock, and by 6 o'clock, it's already in the low 20s as this Arctic air moves in behind it. That also is going to allow the snow to stick around on Wednesday and even into Thursday. So again, it's really slowing down, and that means more snowfall and even some more colder temperatures.
Right. I'm running the same model, NAM. You can see behind the front. Sorry, James, I know you want to pop one. I just want to hit on Scotty's
Go right ahead.
And you can see the temperatures really just diving down in behind that front. This is by about 2 o'clock p.m. or 2 to 3 o'clock p.m. tomorrow afternoon, and the temperatures really fall as we get into tomorrow evening. So, boom, we're getting down to 20s in the teens, Scotty, by that time tomorrow night. So, yeah, temperatures are going to fall across the southeast very rapidly starting tomorrow midday into the afternoon.
And all I was going to jump in and say is I think one of the things we're watching for when you use model data in this scenario or any other scenario is consistency. So just driving home 2 points here that Scotty and Shay talked about, consistency from run to run, that things are slowing down, meaning this is going to be sticking around longer. And we're also in every model run seeing some sort of band, some sort of focus on the greater Raleigh area. So no matter what the accumulations are, our best guess is that they will have the higher amounts. The other thing, gentlemen, I wanted to do is I wanted to pop up the National Weather Service forecast for the Columbia area. We haven't shown this just yet, and as we are drawing on 9:40 here, I want to pop this up. Again, we heard from Tricia Palmer at the Greenville Spartanburg office, not the office I'm currently showing you a map for, that they're considering higher totals. Since we at the Carolina Weather Group are also seeing that in some of the data, I think it is a safe note to put a little asterisk on all of these graphics to say that when they update, we could see these numbers change a little bit. So whether it is the Columbia office, or I think we probably haven't really even shown the Charleston office yet, Shay, which is coming in at all zeros, like you were just noting, we could see maybe some evening flurries factored into this the next time this graphic is updated.
Yes.
We have lots of folks watching on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Periscope, and we're going to thank you so much to everyone who's been calling out their locations so that we can try to get some of those for you. The other thing we want to show you here is just real briefly at this hour at 9:40 on January the 16th, for the most part, radar is pretty clear. The event is still, for the most part, on the other side of the mountains. It is not here yet. You can see a little snow over Virginia that Tricia talked about when she was on the phone with her colleagues up in the Blacksburg, Virginia office. So we'll be waiting to see when this starts populating with some snow in time for your Wednesday morning commute. That's why so many folks, including those at the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school system, have already decided to close for tomorrow because they know tomorrow morning's commute, not only could it be wet and icy, but it could be very cold. Scotty Powell, how are things up in your neck of the woods in the foothills of North Carolina? Are you seeing some closures already up there?
We are. Before I get to that, I'm communicating with my weather group as well, and I wanted to share these temperatures with you right now. Can you guys see the map?
Yes, sir.
All right. So as you can see, temperatures here in the western part of the state, anywhere along and west of Interstate 77, we're already seeing temperatures in the 30s. We have 31 in Asheville, 35 in Morganton, 32 Wilkesboro, 36 in Hickory, 34 in Lincolnton, 33 over in Franklin, and then 37 in the Clemson area. So what I'm trying to say is we initially said, hey, we could see some sprinkles at the start, but these temperatures are so close to freezing that it may actually start out as a little bit of sleet mixed with snow and then change into all snow. So again, that sleet, we may get a thin layer of ice on the roadways, area roadways, before that snow starts to fall. So that could again make for some treacherous travel. But again, talking about some closings and delays, let me pull up that list again. I have it, so give me 1 second here. I've got this. This is as of right now, I need to add one more to what Burke County schools did close just about 30 minutes ago. So I have not added that to this list.
Scotty Powell on his high-tech Google Doc, everybody.
That's right. Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, Hickory City, Lincolnton, Lincoln, Newton, Conover, those are all closed. This is for my forecast area, but like James said, Charlotte, Mecklenburg's out tomorrow. I believe I heard Gaston County's out. I can look those up, but as of right now, a lot of school closures here in the western part of the state, and I would not be surprised to see what county school systems are on a delay tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised to see them closed as we start off tomorrow.
Yeah, and there's certainly too many of them for us to read off all right now this evening. So, of course, we would recommend you touch base with your local school system, your local broadcast meteorologist, and local journalists who will be taking to your airwaves through 10 o'clock newscasts here in the next 20 minutes or so, when we will probably hand things off to them come the 10 o'clock hour. I actually just got a text message, and they may be tuned in watching us from my hometown neighbors in New York. They are driving to North Carolina, and they want to know, does North Carolina salt? Should they continue on with their journey, or should they spend the night in Virginia? Which is a great question, because everybody does things a little bit differently. Can't speak for North Carolina Department of Transportation, but yes, I know here in the Charlotte area, we've got brine out on the road. We've seen it in past instances as well, too. There are a handful of plows that will go out to keep those roads clear. As we've talked about, that Raleigh area, if you're coming down 95, is going to kind of get the most of this snow, maybe about 4 inches or so. So for the most part, yes, if you are like myself and you're from New York, and I don't mean this offensively to anyone in the South, probably not the same type of fleet or the same volume of equipment that you might see in a metropolitan area in New York, you're necessarily going to see in all areas of the Carolinas here. I think your metropolitan areas will be cleared off fairly quickly. It's those secondary, those tertiary roads that may not get cleared off as quickly as some may be used to, I think is what I'm trying to say. Go ahead, Scotty.
I'll tell you this, here where I live in Morganton, boy, they didn't start broadening the roads till about 3 o'clock today. So they're a little delayed on that. I've seen we've got over 130 viewers right now on our Facebook Live video. So let's kind of re-rack here, and let's go over what we know right now and what to expect. Does that sound good, James? You want to lead that?
That sounds great. And actually, while you guys have been talking and walking us through some of this data, I've been making a note of some of the folks who are watching on various platforms asking about the forecast in their neck of the woods. So we have Karen in Old Fort, North Carolina. Karen, you can expect probably 1 to 2 inches or so. The same with Colette 47, who's watching on YouTube. Jonathan, Nashville, North Carolina, probably 3 to 4 inches for you there. And I was just working on a Lillington forecast just south of Raleigh. This one coming from Philin, watching on YouTube, and it's probably safe to say probably about 3 or 4 inches there too in that Raleigh area. Scotty, what are you looking at as we kind of do a reset here at quarter to 10 o'clock hour for this forecast for our event through tomorrow?
Yeah, we had Trish on at the start of the show. Obviously, she was telling us that we could see some increased totals. The models are starting to come in. The NAMs come in. The GFS shade comes in, about an hour or so? I think about 10:30, 11 o'clock, we should start seeing the GFS roll in. Then the European, and then the European after that. But we're looking at right now anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow along and west of Interstate 77. So that's places like Lincolnton, Hickory, Morganton, Shelby, Gastonia. Then once you get to the Charlotte area, 3 inches is possible. But as you go into the central part of North Carolina, let's say Albemarle, Greensboro, Durham, Raleigh, Winston-Salem, over towards Sanford and Southern Pines, that area could see 3 to 5 inches. And then the real winners right now look to be Raleigh and Rocky Mount, Smithfield, Goldsboro, places like Roanoke Rapids, Henderson, they could see anywhere between 6 to 8 inches with the newest model coming out. And I will divert to Shay for South Carolina, as he's had a little bit better handle on what to expect there in the Charleston area and other locations.
Yeah, Scotty. So, sticking to what we discussed earlier about South Carolina is I think most of the snow that we're going to see is going to be inland of the coastline. If we get a dusting at all, we might see 1/10 of an inch. That's what the Weather Service Charleston is calling for inland counties. As we go further inland towards Orangeburg, we see the amount starting to come up. So we may be looking about 1 inch or so as we head towards Columbia. I think Chris Jackson, he's all fired up about it in Columbia. So shout out to Chris. You're doing a great job. I think you've nailed it. You've done pretty good so far and getting the information out. For those of you who follow him, he's a good follow. There's a chance tomorrow, and with this timing being pushed back, this chance could become greater for the Charleston area to see flurries as the temperatures drop later in the afternoon and into the evening, and we get some of this wraparound moisture. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Weather Service say, hey, we could get a small, a tiny bit more snow than just a few flurries. We could see some sheeting of flurries at times. But like they said, we don't expect anything to stick. The only thing I might be concerned about is if we get any moisture enough to stick on the ground, as far as just moisture, not snow, but being wet. We are going to be in the freezing temperatures tomorrow night. So that could be of a concern for black icing, but not being talked about yet. There's no school closures. Nothing's being closed down. The bridges aren't closed. Everything looks fine on the coast. We'll go ahead and take a quick look at the Weather Service.
These are the
Charleston.
warnings. Oh, I'm sorry, Shay. Go ahead. You're going to pop something up on your end. Go right ahead, my friend. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. This is 7 o'clock p.m. updated maps. And, I'll go over here for this one. This is the percent chance. Once again, the percent chance for 1/10 of an inch of snow or more. And you see the higher percent being inland towards Somerville, Moncks Corner, Walterboro, Allendale. These folks a little bit further west and further north are going to have the greater chance. You see the coastline is going to be still kind of warm until later in the day. So we'll see how these maps evolve as time goes on. We go up to Wilmington. We see expected snowfall being less than 1 inch, but enough to stick up that way. I think we'll have enough for it to sort of stick mainly in the grass areas. We may see some road issues, some freezing issues going up that way. If we look up into Newport, Morehead City, we are under winter storm advisories, and that's ongoing right now. Not a warning yet. Go to winter weather maps there. Let's take a quick look and see what their latest maps are showing. And these are 4:54 a.m. I don't think these are going to be good to show. So we may have to wait for these maps to come out a little bit later.
And you know what's funny, Shay? I was just going to pop this up. I was preparing to show it when you were done. This is the warnings and advisories for this hour. But my National Weather Service chat is blowing up right now because, as Trisha talked about, we have new warnings and advisories coming out that we're taking a look at right now. Scotty, you have your mind wrapped around them just yet?
Yeah, we've got winter storm warnings now issued for Chester and York County, South Carolina, Cabarrus, Catawba, Davie, Gaston, Iredell, Lincoln, Mecklenburg, Rowan for North Carolina. Winter storm warning for Cherokee, Greenville, Spartanburg, Lawrence, and Union County, South Carolina, and Cleveland County, North Carolina. Winter weather advisory will remain for the mountains and foothills, it looks like.
And let me go ahead and pop this up. And Scotty, based on what you just read, has this even updated yet, or it's too soon?
It's just came out, so it'll probably update in the next 5 minutes.
I think I've seen this warning come a little bit further south since we last talked. Do we have Lancaster County in there before? So yeah, this is all going to be updating here in the next few minutes. That includes the maps that we're showing you right now. It includes the text that is scrolling on the left-hand side of our screen during tonight's broadcast. All of that is going to just take a hot minute to update. But as Trisha talked about, her office in Greenville, Spartanburg, they just issued some new numbers, and as are all of the National Weather Service offices working together to update those. Let's go back down to Shay because I cut that poor man off again, and I've done it several times tonight. Shay, my friend, I'm sorry.
It's fine, James. So, we have a lot of material to cover. As far as you guys in Western North Carolina, Central North Carolina, that's going to be the Central North Carolina zone is going to be where the strongest snow is going to occur with this system for tomorrow. So I expect just east of Charlotte, over, like you said, towards the Raleigh area. I'm sure Gary Stevenson's loving that if he's out there watching.
I actually talked to Gary.
Oh, yeah? Is he in town?
I talked to Gary. Asked him if he could come on tonight. He said it's just too slim, but he was not looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is it's a very tricky system. And, you know, the timing of this thing, slowing down, the added moisture into the system. These are the things that we're watching. Can it gain more moisture? I don't know. It just depends on how much the Atlantic provides. I think the Atlantic system can provide a little bit more along the coastline. I really wouldn't be surprised to see those OBX numbers come up over the next 12 hours or so. And then even up into the mid-Atlantic, into the Norfolk area, Chesapeake Bay. You could even see, especially some of those wraparound winds, you could see some added Chesapeake Bay effect up in that direction. I'm not sure. I mean, the sea surface temperatures are pretty chilly along the coastline, and that's also going to be of some help to keep the snow around and less of the warm nose intrusion, because the sea surface temperatures are in the mid to upper 40s after our recent storm on the 3rd, and then the several days of coldness after that. We're still recovering from it. So that's sort of the thing is we still have sort of a cold climate left here in the Southeast overall for this time of the year. You know, we had a pretty decent warm up here in Charleston last week to this past weekend, but then things really got chilly Saturday morning and then into Sunday and so on and so forth. So we'll gradually start to pull back up after the system exits the area. We'll start to get back up to the 50s and 60s for highs as we roll into the weekend. So we're not expecting any snow to accumulate on the ground and stick around like last time. No closures, no major effects. If anything, it'll just be a neat little event to see a few flurries here along the coastline if it does reach through here. But if you're looking for the snow, drive west about an hour and you'll see it.
From the Charleston perspective.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I was just frantically doing some Google searching because I know it exists and I can't find it. There is a map from, I want to say, NOAA that defines winter storm warning for different regions and how that varies. Some people need 2 inches, some people need 1, some people need 3. Does anybody have that bookmark? I would love to share that with our viewers, and I just cannot find it.
I don't, but I know what you're talking about, but I do not have it bookmarked.
All right, if somebody finds it before we sign off tonight, let us know, because the point I wanted to try to make is that not everyone's winter storm warnings are the same. So what you have in Raleigh is not the same as Columbia, but I don't want to get twisted up in the terminology. I just don't want people to be like, oh, well, it's going to be worse over there because they have the warning and we have the advisory, because they're not the same. We got to take into effect things like equipment and terrain and kind of the social science of all of this. So we have lots of folks watching online tonight. Thank you so much. Please be sure to like us, subscribe, follow us, so that you can be alerted not only to our Wednesday 8:15 p.m. Eastern weekly shows, but also our specials just like this one, so you can find out the latest on what's going on. But
that's interesting. We have I was just looking at the comments. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Farrah Hollifield talking about getting some snow now in Nebo, North Carolina. So that would be near Lake James.
Oh, okay. Well, I will try to take a look at some of that. I know we have some eyes out there, sky cams that we can take a look at. Scotty, the other thing that I went back to as you were talking there was our southeast warning map. So these are not definitions. This is live, what has been issued. And we were talking a few minutes ago, waiting for stuff to update. And here it is. We do have an update for you now on which areas are in those winter storm warnings. That's what's in pink on that map in front of you right now. And you can see that this has expanded out quite a bit. So as I superimpose myself over this, you can see we have Interstate 95 now under a winter storm warning from Rocky Mount back across Raleigh, Durham, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, Greensboro. You're in on this as well too. As we make our way to the Charlotte area, all of this has been unified. So we have everything from Greenville, Spartanburg, Interstate 85. This is under a winter storm warning. This is where our friend Tricia is. She was talking about it. They have all of this area here. She was even talking about kind of the jurisdictional handoff they have with Lancaster County here as this relates to the Columbia office. But you can see they have unified on this. We do have a winter storm warning that is in effect from tonight through tomorrow for this event. So this is really, guys, going to be a really central North Carolina, upstate South Carolina event here, give or take. I'd be interested to see if this fills in. What do you think, Scotty? Are we going to get these few remaining counties up here?
I think the foothills, I think in Burke County, Caldwell County, Alexander, I think yes. Outside of south of Columbia, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I'm not so sure either. I see you have a tweet up. Let's go up to Scotty. What do you got there for us?
Yeah, so just scrolling through Twitter, this is I-26 westbound on Long Shoals Road. mile marker 37 in western North Carolina, already snow-covered and slushy. So that is from Tyler Buchanan, reporting some snow-covered road interstate 26, mile marker 37. So also one other thing I did want to report, some sleet near the campus of Western Carolina University. This sent in from Edward in Cullowhee. So again, some sleet falling in the Cullowhee area tonight at Western Carolina University.
And Tricia from the National Weather Service, who's on at the top, wanted to remind everybody that you can tweet at them on Twitter. You can also use hashtags wherever you are in the state to get reports to your local office. Hashtag NCWX if you're in North Carolina. Hashtag SCWX if you're in South Carolina. Gentlemen, let's take a quick look outside with a resortcams.com eye. This is the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad, if I'm not mistaken. You can see they've already got some of that white stuff and that snow on the ground there. I want to say I even saw some of this before we went live, but if you look carefully here at this camera, you can start to see we have some additional snow falling from the sky as we pan around here to take a look. We have a couple of these we're going to take a quick look at here while we allow everyone just a moment to regroup. We have a camera from the city of Marion where the road looks dry, things look dry, not seeing much in the way of falling accumulation right there. I'm going to go back to that other camera for just a second as it reloads, because if it's still on that same angle with the streetlights positioned just the right way, I was seeing a decent amount of snow kind of falling there. You can kind of see it if you look very carefully. Hopefully it's coming through on your end as well too. And you can see those slick roads. That's what we're watching to freeze into black ice both tonight and tomorrow morning during your morning commute. So please be very, very careful. Resortcams.com now giving us a look at Boone. This will load up here, get a fresh look. You can see we still have some of the winter decorations up on the streetlights there. I'm not seeing anything depicted by this camera, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. Like with so many of these winter storm events, what you have on one block could differ from the next block over, just depending on those wind conditions and such. And we'll finish up our camera tour here, guys, by going to Blowing Rock. Take a look at this resortcams.com image as it loads on up, and you can see what immediately catches my eye there is that traffic light dancing in the wind there a little bit as this storm makes its way over the mountains. But Scotty, to your point, it sounds like we're beginning to see those slick roads. So if you're having to travel tonight, be careful, and we're in for an even messier morning commute.
Yeah, that's correct. I was reading some through these warnings and stuff. So I have not seen the snowfall map produced yet from GSP, but just reading through some of the warnings, this expecting 2 to 4 inches now in the Charlotte metro area for that area that was a winter storm warned. So 2 to 4 inches of snow now anticipated from the National Weather Service in the Charlotte area. 1 to 3 inches of snow in the western North Carolina. That would be for the winter weather advisory. So the winter storm warning looks to be 2 to 4 inches. Winter weather advisory 1 to 3 inches. And you guys tell me, what's the difference between 3 and 4 inches of snow?
Where I come from, nothing.
So listen, anything over an inch is going to cause travel concerns. It's going to be a messy commute. So anything over an inch is going to be treacherous anyway. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So the difference between the winter weather advisory is 3 inches. The winter storm warning is 4 inches. There's not really much there. So if you're in that advisory, treat it like a warning. You're in the ballpark of seeing 3, maybe even 4 inches of snow there as well.
All right, Scotty. Well, you need to take a throat lozenge. You're starting to sound like Tone Loc. I got a question for you, though. There is a question on our Facebook commentary. Lee Ann Metcalf. She asks, I'm probably overlooking. I'm so behind, but when is this supposed to start in Morganton? Has it started already, Scotty?
No, it's not started yet. Be looking out the window about midnight. That's when we expect to see some of the first flurries fall. But between 2 a.m. and 10 a.m. is when we expect to see the heaviest snow here in Morganton and even Marion, Lenoir, Hickory, places like that. We start to see that snow taper off after 10 a.m. and hopefully it'll be finished by the 12 to 2 p.m. time frame. But as we've been talking about, Shay, the storm's really slowing down, so it may be even longer than that.
Taking a look in up here at the cameras, and it looks like Shay Gibson, Charleston, South Carolina. You might have a nice morning commute. It's your evening commute you'll need to watch, and everyone here in the western part of North Carolina's Charlotte, the foothills into upstate North Carolina of Greenville, Spartanburg, and the like. Yeah, as Scotty said, we are in for it here in the next few hours or so. You know what? We talked about this before, but because we knew that there was snow coming, but we kind of didn't put our snowstorm hats on until just earlier, I still kind of feel like this isn't the real thing yet. I mean, we're not in for a blizzard, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but it's a perfect example of why at any point in the year, but especially wintertime, it's good to have water on hand, bread and peanut butter, instead of running out to Walmart right now. It's good to have those things on hand. I know I picked up some extra gallons of water because I anticipate at some point, and city, municipality, don't take me the wrong way, water pipe main break is going to happen someplace, and we're going to be out without clean water for a short bit. So that's why I have those things on hand, and hopefully you've got some things as well too. Look at this camera here. Let's go back up. We're really beginning to see it here in Bryson City at the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. We're beginning to see some of these early flurries beginning to fall on down, especially when the camera looks this way. You can see it beginning to fall as the camera pans on over. At least with this shot here, as you look out towards the caboose and the back of the train, we can see some of the snow on the ground. I know we are at the 10 o'clock hour. We talked about kind of feeding some of you folks over to your local 10 p.m. newscast on your Fox, CW, or independent broadcast affiliates, and we may do that here momentarily. I want to remind folks that if you are traveling tomorrow, please, please, please be careful, whether that means you're going to call ahead to your carrier because you're going to look at this FlightAware misery map and go, oh man, we're already beginning to see cancellations, or if you are taking to the road, maybe you can work from home tomorrow. If you have that option, wonderful. Be sure to leave yourself some extra time in the morning. But once again, our headline now at the 10 o'clock hour is that this winter storm, which is teeing up to come on through here in the next 24 hours or so, the National Weather Service extending these winter storm warnings. That's what's in pink. We can see it now for a good portion of the North Carolina region, essentially from Interstate 95 through Charlotte back down into upstate North Carolina. But everyone else here in this purple, these are winter weather advisories. Still no bulletins officially for you, Shay, but we'll look to see what you guys get as you head into that time frame tomorrow evening. Scotty Powell, as we were looking at these updated forecasts from the National Weather Service and also keeping a close eye on their graphical forecast, haven't seen those change just yet, but before we sign off, I know you were reading their text forecast that came out first. Anything else standing out to you? We're showing the GSP map right now, which to your point earlier, we could see these numbers, each one of these numbers maybe go up by an inch. Scotty, you may be muted. Either that or I talked so long I put everyone to sleep, which wouldn't be the
No,
first time.
I was muted, so I was saying, you know, I was hitting this refresh button to see if we could get these newest totals out. But you know, if we're looking at the 7 p.m. Graphic right now, it has was that 2.8 inches in Charlotte. I could see that an additional inch added onto that. Yes, so I think for the Charlotte metro area, if you're under a winter storm warning, I would expect 2 to 4 inches with those isolated locally, however you want to word it, 5-inch amounts. If you're under the winter weather advisory, I could see 1 to 3 inches with locally or isolated 4-inch amounts of snow. And then as you travel to Greensboro to Raleigh, I think that's where the home run per se is going to be. And you could see 6, 7, maybe even 8 inches of snow up in that area. Again, 24 hours ago, heck, 12 hours ago, 18 hours ago, this was really just going to be a passing band of snow that maybe produced an inch, and that was it. And it is really ramped up today, and really got a lot of us, I don't want to say caught off guard, but caught off guard. Yeah.
well, guys, you know, I want to share something that I thought was kind of humorous today. I mean, if you want to add a little bit of humor into the conversation, but this is from the Weather Service in Nashville, Tennessee. And I don't know, can everybody see the screen I'm sharing up?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Yes. Okay. So here, this was actually came across pretty funny. So they're talking about short-range models getting reports of decent snowfall and photographs. We believe they are real. It is cold outside, and it will get even colder throughout the day and night. You can tell yourself it can't possibly get any colder, but trust us, it will. Some of you are under winter storm warning for today. Some of you are under winter storm advisory. Everyone is under a wind chill advisory for tonight. Do not go outside. Do not even open up the curtains. Think about the beach or something warm. Boil lots of water and keep the tea flowing. Drip your faucets. Do not drive. Do not walk the dog. If you must venture outside, wear 8 layers. Do not make grocery store jokes. Do not complain about the forecast, regardless of what happens. So I just thought I'd share that today. We'll call that a tweet of the week early for tomorrow night, James. But back to you. I just had to share that. I thought it was pretty fun.
Oh wait, I have a tweet of the week graphic. There you go. It's officially the tweet of the week. There you go. You've been graphic-guised.
It's more like a Facebook page of the week, but yeah, you can. Anyways, yeah, I mean, it's always great when the Weather Service has a sense of humor about a situation that's pretty bad. And wind chills are really, really low, so be careful out there tonight, no matter where you are. Wind chills with even if you have temperatures in the 30s, with a little bit of wind, you can drop down into the 20s. So be careful out there.
Scotty Powell, before we sign off, Shay mentioned Wednesday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on Periscope, and, of course, as a podcast on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. What do we have coming up tomorrow besides, of course, lots of conversation about snow?
That was a long list there, James. No, we have Todd Lindley on. He's the Science and Operations Officer at the National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. He will be our guest, and he'll be talking about forecasting wildfires. So kind of been in the story, especially in California the past couple of weeks, and even in central part of this country just a few months ago. So Todd will be joining us to talk about forecasting wildfires. And like you said, we'll probably end up talking about the remnants of this snow as well. That is our show tomorrow night. Very excited to have Todd on. I know Shay was able to do a test hangout with him, and Shay was just commenting on how his presentation for tomorrow night is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, so he's got some really good information for tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to having him on. He's going to show more or less his area of expertise, which is going to be in the plains in central United States. So he'll have some knowledge about wildfires that we've heard about in California, but his area of expertise is going to be in these areas, which we've seen a lot of activity in the last year or two. So there's different weather patterns and different climate. Everywhere USA has a different microclimate. So keep that in mind when we talk about fires, that number one, wildfires create their own weather. Once they get to a certain size, they take over the climate around them, right, in the immediate vicinity. So keep that in mind as we go into tomorrow night's conversation. What kind of questions you want to bring, anything you have would be helpful, because this is what these guys do. They want to answer questions and appeal to the public with their information and their knowledge on the topic. So looking forward to that tomorrow night, Scotty.
Yeah, it's gonna,
go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be a great show. And here's our panelist, Ricky Matthews. He's out in the Storm Track 5 SUV out in East Tennessee and Gray, Tennessee. And he says this is Interstate I-26, and it's slick but manageable. Use your common sense, as Ricky would say.
Yeah, he looks like he's going light speed, as he's flying down the road. Everything's blurred.
That's it. So
Ricky, get off the road, Ricky. Get off the road.
Ricky covering the snow. And then I had one more, and I know we'll end this up, but I wanted to show you, I had a little fun today as well. Let me pull this up right quick. And, screen share, where'd you go? There you are. All right, screen share this. This was my weekly trip to Walmart, to the grocery store. I always go on a Tuesday night. I mean, Tuesday. It's like my day to go get what I need to get. And so I wasn't there today for the winter storm. I was just getting my stuff I needed. And so I was really impressed that there was a lot of bread and milk left. So good job, Morganson, for not freaking out and going and buying all the bread and milk this evening. So now that the forecast is changing and we're going to get more snow, we should go do another picture of that and see how it looks now.
Well, it's 10:09 and I may be heading to Walmart here momentarily, so I will continue our live Walmart coverage from a Walmart near you coming up in just a few minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, to recap with you here tonight, thank you for tuning in to the Carolina Weather Group, our special snow coverage. Please follow us, like us, subscribe us, depending on which platform, of course, you were watching on, so that we can keep you updated on the latest on this snowstorm through tomorrow morning and throughout the day. We're still waiting on these graphical maps to update. You know what? I also want to caution that it's not a guarantee that they're all going to update. We talked to Greenville Spartanburg. We talked to Tricia. She said they're probably going to update these numbers numbers here an additional inch or so. We can't speak for the other National Weather Service offices, so when we really focus in on this map from Raleigh, we haven't talked to the folks in Raleigh, so we don't know exactly what their game plan is. But based on our analysis here, we wouldn't be surprised to see another inch or two based on that. But at the very least, folks, if you live across the central portion of North Carolina, and we're in for about 3 or 4 inches of snow here tomorrow, so hopefully you can work from home, someplace warm, maybe by a fireplace. Paint a nice picture.
James,
yes, Scotty?
Not to put you on the spot, but are we going to have a snow special tomorrow like we did a couple weeks ago?
Not only do I think we're going to have a snow special tomorrow, which means that we may start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as opposed to 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, there's also talks of doing an 8 a.m. special. So what are you doing tomorrow at 8 a.m., gentlemen? And all of you folks online.
Well,
do you want us here? Should we be getting up in the morning to talk about this? Because it's going to be an AM morning commute story for the good western portion of the state here. So
I will probably be up by 6 a.m. So
I might be able to join via phone for a little bit, but I'm going to be in at FLETC Charleston, so I won't be able to broadcast from there or anything. But I might be able to get a spot or cell phone signal that I might be able to hop on and talk about Charleston for a little bit.
Yeah, and of course we also have our cameras and stuff that will hub up throughout the day. So again, I do encourage you to follow us. Go ahead,
James.
Scotty, yes.
I think we have the Snowfall models out.
Whew, that's good, because I was about to go county by county and read power outages just for shays and amusement.
I just seen a tweet come across, so let me pull this up real quick.
All right, I'm hitting refresh on my end. Did that change?
Right.
Not on my end.
Here it comes. I'm going to screen share it on mine if that's okay.
Okay, we're coming to Scotty Powell. Get the big breaking news graphics ready. We have our 10 p.m. forecast. Scotty Powell, what do you have for us?
All right, so here we go. Here's our newest snowfall map. 4.5 inches of snow for the Charlotte area.
Wow.
5.3 up in the Salisbury area. Almost 4 inches in Statesville. Almost 4 inches in Lincolnton, 4.5 inches in Gastonia. As you get into the foothills, between 2 to 3 inches of snow now in the Morganton Hickory area. Spartanburg, Greenville, Spartanburg, around 3 inches of snow there. And even down in Chester County, we're approaching 4 inches of snow. And even down in the southern upstate in Abbeville, 2.3 inches of snow. So that is the latest. And as you can see, this is the Raleigh area, and we just don't have
need
the
the Raleigh
numbers
map.
yet.
I'm refreshing the Raleigh map.
They're caving to the NAM. I'm telling you, they're caving to it.
We just don't have the Raleigh numbers, but I can tell you those are 6-inch plus totals over here.
Based on the
I
colors.
see. You know, it's good that you say that, though, because I do know some folks up in the Union Spartanburg area, and so that's a great map. So they're looking at 2 to 3 inches up in that area, even maybe a little bit more than that. 3.3 for Spartanburg. Union. Actually, Union's up there a little bit higher, 3.8 inches. So you could see 3 to 4 inches if you're in those areas. Some other folks I know that are watching right now, the Rock Hill Indian Land area, about 4.1 inch. Yep. And you can see Scotty's graphic there, 4.5 in Charlotte. So yeah, they've gone up on those totals. Yep,
and like James was talking about, the color scale, those are 6-inch totals there. So I just don't know what Raleigh's got yet. I don't think it's out yet. I can surf over to their Twitter page right quick, see if they've
you go ahead and do that. I'm going to also take our viewers back up to Bryson City, resortcams.com, providing us this look at the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad, where we did have some snow beginning to fall not too long ago. So we'll check in on this. You can see it there on the tracks. You can see some people out walking around, but also notice the shininess of that surface. That is frozen precip beginning to adhere to the roadway, and that's why we're going to be watching for black ice. So please be careful, not only tonight, but to tomorrow morning as well, too. I can actually pull up radar right now. It's important to also note that sometimes with the radar beam, with the radar image we're getting back, we're not always going to see these little tiny snow flurries, but I would say if you're watching tonight from Bryson City, yeah, you can see that snow there on the radar there in the western part of North Carolina, just north of our friends in Georgia. So we're beginning to see some of that snow come in. It's going to be making its way over the mountains here in the next few hours or so, and that's why we'll be watching closely. Cliff Fox has lost 1 degree so far in Alexander County. 1 more degree, he's saying he'll be at the freezing mark. Yeah, we're not too far away, and we still have some folks out and about, so be sure to bundle up. We are at, I have 38 degrees here in South Charlotte, if that is accurate. So
I'm going to go check my thermometer. Hold on.
Okay. Live from Scotty's back porch. We have from Morganton,
And
North
James,
Carolina.
31. 31.
31, so he's below freezing
31.
there. Shay Gibson,
Yeah,
or did you have a number, or are you ducking out on us? What's up, my friend?
Yes, I do have to run. I've got to get off the line here, but real quick recap for the folks along the South Carolina area. It looks like north of Charleston, maybe up towards Georgetown, up through the Grand Strand into eastern North Carolina. We'll see the higher chance for flurries along the coast, but the bigger chance still resides inland to the west and to the north as well. So it looked like we could see a dusting, a tenth of an inch, maybe a quarter of an inch. We'll see if those numbers come up by tomorrow. If you live inland along the coastline, we may see a few brushes of flurries as we get into late afternoon, evening, and into maybe even early to midnight. We could see a little bit of precip fall in the form of snow as those temperatures drop and get down near freezing and below freezing as the sun goes down. We may have a few flurries. So the only concern at this point would be that we wouldn't see much accumulation or any accumulation, but the roads may get wet, and that could be problematic for icing. So we'll touch base tomorrow. I'll be chiming in. Follow me on my Facebook page. Twitter is @WeatherflowChas. That's @WeatherflowChas. Facebook, I have Chucktown Wind Report. Also, my profile, Shay Gibson, and Shay Gibson -Weatherflow is my page. So feel free to follow me there, and I'll be doing a few updates throughout the day, and I wouldn't be expecting anything to happen till afternoon. So don't worry about your morning commute. Everything looks fine. It's going to be the late afternoon commute that might be in a little bit of a question. So it depends on how fast those temperatures fall. I think we'll be okay, but we'll touch base tomorrow on it. Until next time, until tomorrow night, guys, I'm going to sign off. You guys have a good night.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Shay.
Shay.
You
Good
too.
night. Excellent point there. So if you're in western North Carolina, you're in upstate South Carolina, this event essentially begins now. Charlotte, we're looking at overnight into the morning, and then as you make your way into Raleigh, late morning, and then along the coast, Charleston, South Carolina, and otherwise, we're looking at PM drive tomorrow and tomorrow night. DMC Lean, or is it DM Clean 02, 32.4 degrees in Kernsville. Thanks for checking in and following us here on YouTube. And we have some other folks watching as well, too, and really appreciate everyone coming out, our loyal viewers and those checking us out here for the first time. It sounds like we are all in for a winter weather day tomorrow, Scotty. So everyone, I hope, stay warm. And we've said it a couple times, but before we go, you have another tweet.
Yeah, here's just a quick update from the Greensboro area. This from our buddy Tim Buckley. Main changes today. More snow is likely for the Greensboro area, 4 inches plus. Later start time, 12 to 4 a.m. and a later end time. Tim thinking maybe 2 to 6 p.m. now that the snow finally leaves the triad areas. So there you go. Later storm, more snowfall accumulation. Just another day in paradise here in North Carolina with winter storms.
It's a great point about just kind of the margin here with each one of these passing model runs. When does it leave? When does it arrive? How exactly does it fall? And those are all things that with each passing model run we're going to be looking at here as we taking a look right now. This is the latest run of the HER. So this is kind of a high resolution short-term model. Must be a way for me to slow this down because this is playing really quickly. But you can see again as we go through the overnight into tomorrow, maybe a little rain out ahead of this, maybe a little bit in the form of icy sleet that will then freeze as the snow comes on through. And by the time things are all said and done, as we've been talking about here for much of the past hour or so, 3 to 4 inches of snow for much of the Charlotte area, the upstate North Carolina, up into the foothills, and maybe 5 inches or so back towards Raleigh. We'll wait exactly to see what Raleigh's National Weather Service forecast is. One last check of that right now. It has not yet updated, but
Nope.
not yet. But that's what we got. That's what we got from them as of earlier.
Let me pop in their chat, see if they've said anything about anything.
And as we do that, I do want to thank you once again on behalf of our entire crew tonight. I'm James Brierton. You've been watching a special snow edition of the Carolina Weather Group. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube for live video streams just like this one. We're back tomorrow with our regular scheduled Wednesday night show and, of course, more coverage of the snow. You can also find us in the podcast form. Check us out on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, and TuneIn Radio. Scotty Powell, any word from Raleigh?
Nope, no word from Raleigh. The chat is quiet, so we'll just take that as we'll continue to monitor. I will probably be up for a couple more hours, so if I see something from them, I'll tweet it out on our page, and we'll go from there. But James, full day tomorrow for us. I'm sure we're going to be streaming some live cams tomorrow. I'll be active. I'll probably most likely be working from home tomorrow. I don't actually have to be in the office for this storm, so I'm happy about that. So we'll be tweeting some pictures out and retweeting a lot of you guys. So tweet us your snow pictures, Carolina WX group, and we'll get those out. And just stay safe out there and enjoy the snow tomorrow if you can.
Thank you so much, Scotty, for your time tonight. Thank you at home for watching us. Stay up to date, stay weather aware, and stay safe. And most of all, enjoy some winter snow. We leave you now with a look at Bryson City from ResortCams.com.